And we are recording and streaming with Mr. Sam Anthony, who's been on here once before, maybe twice, once, maybe twice. I don't know. On Tuesday, December 10th, 2024 at 1:10 p.m. Eastern. What is, why is it not starting to stream? Of course, it logs me out as I'm starting to stream.
Is it live?
It's review your, go live. What has happened? Okay, there it is. Now it's going. I don't know what that was about. That was weird. Um, Now we're live. Now we're streaming. Sam Anthony from Your News. You've been on here before. I talk about Your News in the daily ad reads in the description. It is to the quickest, most summarized version is it's Facebook for news, and that you basically just use your location and you post stuff there and organically. It's like Google Street View probably provides more accurate intelligence than any intelligence agency ever could because it's just, or like Waze, the traffic app, it's just based on the accelerometer in your phone, and it's just people broadcasting their location, and because of that, it gives you a more accurate traffic image than Google Earth or any surveillance can do because it's just live broadcasting from that area. In the same sense, that's kind of what Your News is, in that it's just, as opposed to some giant, monolithic mega news corp that is really they're only going to cover your little town if something insane happens, like, there's a nuclear waste spill. This is more of it's pinned to whatever zip code you punch in. So mine might not be a good example because it's a podcast about everything. I just happen to be in Portland, Maine. But let's say I was just, for the listener, let's say I was just, I don't know, talking about the snowstorm last night. You would just put in your zip code, and then people using Your News would see like what's going on in Portland today. And as opposed to a 10-second news bit about this much snow, you would just see an actual live, like, let's see what this guy's saying. And it would be me talking about the snow or the local football team or whatever. So in general, that's kind of the best way I can summarize it. I could be wrong, but that's kind of like Waze traffic. It's just based on your phone. That's what I would say your news is it's just kind of news based on your zip code, but not uploaded by a, because what we've talked about, well, what is the issue? Why replace it if if you're presenting something new, what is it replacing? Well, it's what we've really all kind of suspected for decades, but really seen in the last precisely the last 4 years, of the top down thing doesn't work. We've seen that, and it worked for a while, but power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we've seen the whole, well, get this shot, and it wasn't made in the lab, and the election was fair, and it wasn't an assassin. Trump just fell. And now you've kind of seen that it's rotted through. So it's replacing a system that needs to be replaced, and it's the way you've described it is it's bottom up as opposed to top down. That's my best summary of it, but how about you introduce yourself and give them a better summary?
Tommy, great or thanks for having me on the show.
Yes, sir.
Good to see you again.
You too.
So I think you're fairly accurate with that. I mean, the model we have is the exact replication of the physical world, like how the print newspaper gets put together, minus all the print and distribution costs. And the key to the whole thing is it puts the power of the press back in the hands of the people where it belongs. You made mention that in the last 8 years, maybe four, I'm telling you, it was at least eight. Okay. That
Hmm.
whole centralized news from the top down in the last 8 years, when Trump won, in 16, all of a sudden everything just cut loose and they all had the same talking points about everything.
It had been growing kind of under the surface for decades, but I think, yeah, no,
Mhm.
we saw it fully came, like the rot came through. The
Right.
termites, the entire building dropped, but the termites had been there for decades. But yeah,
Yes. It definitely came through 8 years ago when they lost their mind when Trump won.
yeah.
And, I was one of those people that didn't believe the mainstream media was lying until Trump won. And then you'd
Mm.
have to be an absolute moron to not get it.
Yeah, no, I'd say I was in the. Again, I think the average person had an idea that, like, it was in the same way that it's like, yeah, of course McDonald's isn't healthy. I think everyone kind of had it, but it wasn't. It's like, yeah, the gas companies are all, they're all agreeing on a set price of gas. It's like, it's like, yeah, what do you know? Grow up. It's been that, and before that, it was railroad. Like, shut up. That wasn't, I think, the issue. Everyone, yeah, sure, it's corrupt. it was so in your face. It was to the point then I would say, and maybe the value of your news is it started affecting the average person. If the average person, if you're sitting in a dorm room hitting a bong and you're like, yeah, man, the news is corrupt. It's like, yeah, I get it, dude, but that has nothing to do with the fact that like I have a paper due tomorrow. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. It was so in your face that it affected people like me doing a podcast at the time above my parents' garage. It came knocking on the door of everyone. It was no longer, they lied about the Iraq war. It's like, yeah, they also killed Kennedy. Like, grow up. It was more like, dude, I can't even post on Facebook because like my mom got an aneurysm from the shot. That's, it hit a critical mass. And I think that is why it's dissolving.
It certainly isn't helping the cause. All right. I mean,
Sound like a really hesitant lawyer. You're like,
well,
that is true. However,
but well, yeah, because I mean, I think it's sped up the process, but at the end of the day, we used to use a product called the telegraph, and then some guy created something called the phone, and the next thing you know, there's no telegraph anymore. So there's always a product that replaces something else, Tommy. So they were going to be gone whether they lied or not. The fact that they lied just sped up the process because people are just turning and walking away. And that's why you saw MSNBC lose 54% of their audience the other day. And then now the next step is you're going to lose 54% of your ad revenue. And the next step is you're going to lay off I don't know how many people, right? So
yeah,
it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, but they were, make no mistake about it, they were all done before.
yeah,
It's just the lying really was so in your face that people just, even the people that didn't want to believe they were lying went, okay, I heard enough. Let's look somewhere else.
yeah. No, it was an egregious, you know, it's like having a friend or a family member that's just kind of spiraling, be it financially or drugs or, the outermost circles kind of abandon them first. Not abandon them. That makes them sound bad. No, you stop putting up with it. And it keeps coming inward. And then, I mean, I know from like my own experience after my brother died, is you kind of get to a point where it's like only mom and dad are with you. And it's so in your face that nothing really is changing. And I think that's what it is it's just, and then also when a solution is offered or a even a chink in the armor, in that you can still kind of, they were, give credit where it's due, they were adapting. That when it's Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, Twitter, this is the YouTube, this is the new thing. And so it was kind of like a false dying of Fox and CNN and MSNBC and social, but very quickly you could see all of the same kind of roots going into it with Elon buying Twitter. Once you have an opening and one of the platforms is allowing people to just say whatever, there is a border crisis. There are Nazis in Ukraine. There are vaccine injuries, whatever. The other ones very quickly followed suit because I think financially, and I don't think it was some change of heart. I think it was financially, Facebook or Instagram was kind of like, it only works when we're all censoring the same thing. If you say the COVID came from a lab, you would get banned from YouTube. If you did it on Twitter, banned, Facebook banned, Instagram banned, Reddit banned. But once one of them allowed it and all of the traffic went there, it very quickly, in my opinion, became sink or swim. And that's why Facebook kind of lightened up on it. YouTube still hasn't. So in that sense, you don't have to win it all at once. So long as you can just show an opening, the oxygen start it's the air starts flying out of the plane once you do a little hole. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing now is just a slow accelerate. I mean, 4 years ago, it seemed like it was a total coup. I know, again, for me doing the podcast, it seemed like it was a total coup. Like I can't post anywhere. Well, then I found Rumble, and you can start to push forward, and then you slowly break the grip of the machine. So, I mean, I that's kind of my 2 cents on it is once you don't have to pop 10 holes in a balloon. If you just do one, the whole thing starts to go down. And that's kind of where I see it.
Isn't Facebook still censoring though? Because I get a
Very bad,
lot of complaints.
very badly, but 4 years ago, so I'm banned from YouTube. I do an episode on Rumble with whoever, Dr. Malone. If I post it on Facebook, the link gets banned.
Mhm.
Now I can post it. So little things like that, even that is doesn't seem like much, but it was outright full spectrum banning. Now it's I can post it on Instagram and I don't get a little flag that says COVID-19 was found to jump from a bat to a what. You don't get that anymore. So that alone is a huge change. You can openly talk about 2020 election irregularities. If you breathed a whiff of that, you'd get iced from those platforms. So they do still ban, but it's not. It used to be like zero tolerance.
I mean, we can't put anything out on that platform on Facebook. So at least that's what they tell me.
I'm not defending
I
them. They are commies. I'm just saying
oh,
in comparison to 4 years ago.
yeah. So, look, the only reason I'm sure, the big networks have been lying to us for years. I mean, just look at, what do they call it? Operation Mockingbird back in the
Yeah.
70s, where the CIA infiltrated the
Oh, the
mainstream
problem. Yeah.
media.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this has been going on a lot longer. People had to tolerate it because you had no other options. But with technology today, I could be my own podcaster. You could be your own podcast. I mean, all of a sudden, we don't need these people anymore, right? I mean, I'm even doing videos for my own company with an app that I bought that has a teleprompter on it. You know what I'm talking about. You probably see there's $79,
Yeah.
okay, for the year. And all of a sudden, I could just send messages. You can't remember everything perfectly, but it just moves for you while you're
Yeah.
freaking cool.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's the other thing is it forces the hand is it's kind of like if you ever do an internet speed test, it does download and then upload.
Hmm.
Download them across all packages for really all ISPs is download's always better because 99.9% of people are really just downloading. Scrolling Facebook, you're technically downloading. Viewing YouTube, you're downloading. Very few people like me are constantly uploading videos. In the same sense, the upload download for decades was the download was the TVs in your living room or the radios in your, kitchen, and you could listen to, Walter Cronkite. There was really no upload, like almost none. Maybe you start a newspaper, but even that, you got to type it up and then you got to physically hand it. Good luck. So again, you got to give credit where credit's due. The CIA ran the table. It's just I don't think it's feasible anymore. Now, I don't doubt that they are trying their hardest and probably succeeding in more ways than we'll ever know. But I don't think I don't think it's physically possible. The only way to really shut it down would be an orbital EMP, but then that would cook the very economy that all these guys are getting rich off of.
No upside. No
No,
upside. You
no.
know.
It can be done. It's just in the same way, like, yeah, we could win the Cold War by launching nuke, but I mean, they launch them back and the whole thing's over. So that's another reason is I don't think it's viable. I actually don't think it is viable. It's like physically not possible anymore. Yeah.
Well, I think that the world's going to actually change for the better. I think we're going to go through a little bit of tougher time, but at the end of the day, the legacy media is cooked. They're done. So that's the most important piece to this. And you guys are going to be the ones that are putting out the information. So everything is going to end up becoming decentralized and democratized. Most important piece, I think I deal with a lot of journalists, especially now, because now while every news outlet has been letting people go, I'm hiring, I'm bringing them on. I'm like the only one, right? And there's no number we can't hire. That's the cool part. So I'm focused right now on student journalists simply because when they get out of school, Tommy, who's going to hire them?
No,
Nobody. Nobody.
literally
I mean,
no.
fast forward 2 years from now, 3 years from now, do you really think there's going to be more journalism jobs or less?
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, it is Yeah, and I gotta be honest, I don't feel you're a better man than me, but I don't feel for him. I mean, I feel for like the kids who are coming at it, but they didn't do this. But I
Oh,
mean,
that's why I said the students.
yeah, yeah, no. I mean, I feel for them, but in terms of like watching, MSNBC like writhe on no part of me is like, hey, we should call an ambulance. I'm just kind of like, yeah, fuck that guy. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever.
So, we've had this conversation. I'm pretty sure because, I saw the study came out about a month ago was 97% of journalists that work for mainstream media, which was radio, TV, and print, voted Democrat. So when you look at all the people on LinkedIn that are calling themselves freelance journalists, which is almost 500,000 people, you have to know that 97% of them vote Democrat, right? So I am not reaching out to them to bring them on my platform. I'm not saying, hey, problem, can you come over here so you can continue the problem? What I've decided to do is reach out to the student journalists because they could be molded. They could be shaped. I'm not looking to change somebody's political view, but in my opinion, Tommy, and I'm sure you would agree, and everybody that's listening, your opinion on politics doesn't matter until you have a wife, a couple of kids, a mortgage, you're paying taxes, and all of a sudden you got all these problems, right? Next thing you know, that's going to decide which way you're going to be voting. So
Yeah,
any 20-year-old making a decision on which way they want to vote is just a waste of time.
yeah.
So that's our focus right now. And by the way, just on LinkedIn alone, there's 170,000 student journalists. And in the last 10 days, I've picked up 30 of them. And I'm only spending very limited amounts of money. Watch what happens after the first of the year. We'll be talking about this, and I'll say I picked up 3 to 500,
130,000,
170.
170,000. I mean, what are you doing?
Well, that's what I thought. Okay. And I mean,
I mean,
I
God
always ask
bless,
them.
but I mean, what in God's name are you? I mean, maybe they have plans to say, I'm gonna go out and start, I don't know, be a Twitter journalist or, Rumble or I mean, maybe, I don't know. But I mean, what in God's name are you doing? I don't want to, again, they didn't do it.
They didn't do it. They've got a passion for journalism.
Yeah.
Obviously, I guess you could say they're victims, but not really, Tommy, because here's how I see this. You're not old enough for this, but when we used to come home, from work 40 years ago, okay, you turn on the TV and you'd have your local or national people there, and those were the people you relied on. Those
Mhm.
local news reporters in the newspaper. I get the newspaper, and you'd see the same names in the newspaper, and these are the people that you trusted and relied on to make sure they provided you the proper information because they were the ones at the city council meeting. They were the ones at all the different events that you couldn't make it to. So you were trusting in them to share that information. That ship has sailed. They're gone. And what's going to replace them is this next younger generation. They're going to be the ones that are going to be the go-to people. They're actually living in the best time possible for journalism, but for the most part, nobody knows it because you only see the negative.
It also seems to be that there's like like in a form of inertia of the old system, which I think is probably expected. But it's like I mean, if you look like okay, like right now it's cloudy. So if you just looked at this snapshot, you go, "Oh, Portland, Maine's cloudy." It's like, not really. There's a big storm yesterday, but it's normally not cloudy. But if you just look at there's an inertia. The storm is still passing over. It's not snowing anymore, but there's still, it's still a storm the size of a state. Like the clouds are going over, in the sense that there is an inertia, and just like the corruption didn't start in 2016.
No.
It literally started with, I mean, it started as long
1776
yeah, yeah,
was probably
exactly. No, but I mean, it's like not only did like let's just say like like picture based corrupt, just video image. It's not only did it start, before my parents were born, it also started at the apex, like under the CIA, and we really start to see it in 2016. But again, it's still going to take time. Like if you look at like a time lapse of blockbuster locations you can see it, like any bit it grows exponentially, kind of hits its peak. When it now, I think they're almost all gone, but it was dead, I don't know, 10 years before like the last store shut. There's still an inertia. It doesn't just, you don't immediately just jump to Netflix. in the same sense, one day we'll look back and that'll say like, yeah, so it started on with a covert program in the 50s and 60s, really became visible to the public eye in the 20 teens, really started to take a death knell around 2024, and by 2030, in the same sense that the storm is still going over, we're seeing, and it feels like forever because we're in it, but I think we're seeing the death of all these things, moving to Twitter, moving to all these I don't know, these platforms, and it still seems like they're hanging on, but it's what we're seeing is like a slow dying process. Like they are hanging on in the same way Blockbuster hung on. It just
Yeah,
it takes a little bit for it to die, but it's dying. It's
it's a great
absolutely dying.
analogy.
Yeah, it's
So
absolutely dying.
the Blockbuster is really a good analogy, right? I mean, remember when they came out of nowhere and they blew up and there was,
Yeah.
Blockbuster in every block in the United States practically, they were everywhere. And all of a sudden, another technology came around, Netflix, which ultimately replaced them.
And they tried to sell themselves to Blockbuster, and Blockbuster said, "Eh, that's
Uh,
that's bullshit." I
yes.
think they tried to sell them. I think the original sale is they tried to pitch it for 5 million.
I'm going to tell you something else. I watched it like on the Discovery Channel, a documentary of Bell. And what Bell did, the form of communication was the telegram at the time. So you send a telegraph. So, you go to you'd have to come in from town, go into the telegraph place, and you'd have to send a telegram. He went to them and was looking for investment capital for his. And they told him nobody's ever going to have one of these
Yeah.
things in their house. That's what they said to him. So usually the people that are in it can't see the forest through the trees. They just have their own vision of how things are going to happen, and they don't understand change. The people in the media business, did you hear the guy from Axios last week talk?
Yeah, Elon Musk, you are not that is let them eat cake. Like, dude,
Okay. Well,
it's
here's what
over.
I saw. I saw the media as he's talking in a toilet bowl, and all it's doing is spinning,
Yeah.
right? And that's all it's doing. And they're going, we're relevant. We do the hard work. And I'm thinking to myself, anybody can do your job better than you. Anybody. Okay.
They can't see it.
No, they can't see
The
it.
smartest among them do see it, but they also know they still have money in it, so they're going to go and say we're still relevant, and then they're probably using shell corps to buy up new technology. Those are the smartest ones. They're the ones that say the Third Reich will last forever, and then they go home and they're talking to OSS members, going, "Can you get me out of Germany?" Because that was happening a lot. The dumber ones right below truly believe it's not over. They're like. You can see ads. They're like with Walter Cronkite style advertising. You're like, what are you talking about? You can't do this anymore, man. Like it's not like decades later. Like my generation grew up watching them say like we need to go and what my friends like went into Iraq. Like, physically went to Iraq. You can't do it anymore. And so yeah, they're still spiraling. Yeah, and it's it's let them eat cake. It's we'll never fall. It'll never end this way. We're still too powerful. And yeah, there is inertia. There's absolutely inertia. Go back to 2005 and say Blockbuster's over the big dude, you're an idiot. 2008, it's like, yeah, okay, you can get a CD with a movie on it from Netflix, but they mail it to you. It takes a couple days. Sometimes it doesn't get there. It's like, yeah, but lick your finger, put it in the air. Which way is it going? 2010, 2015. And then by the time people start admitting that it's over, it doesn't matter. Everyone's already got it on the ground floor and the thing is moving on. So looking at that, yeah, that to me that makes sense. Is they're going, it's not over, and it's absolutely over, but it's just spiraling, and
The
I
toilet's been flushed, Tommy. It's been
I think
flushed.
4 years ago you might be able to. I wouldn't say that it's the news corps, but in terms of top down control, I think 4 years ago you could be like, yeah, no, the mainstream news is dying, but the powers that be are nesting in social media. I think that would have been a fair argument, but it's been 4 more years, and now that's not even working. Like that's fucked.
In the next 4 years, it's going to be hell to pay. It's
Yeah,
over.
And then by 2028, they're gonna be going, oh, great, yeah. So granted, the mainstream news, it's like, yeah, dude, everyone's already put their positions in. You're done. It's over. Like,
Mhm.
so I don't know. Normally, you only have to worry about a dying animal thrashing out when it's a military power, because you go, the Soviet Union's dead, and it's like, correct, they have 30,000 nukes, so we got to be careful. They don't. Fox doesn't. MSNBC
No,
doesn't have armament, so it's like, yeah, well, let them writhe, let them reach out, or lash out.
I talk to journalists every day, and now I'm really reaching out talking to a lot of the student journalists, and they say the same thing. They send all their resumes everywhere, and nobody's hiring. They can't get a job.
Yeah, fuck them.
So that's just how it is. So I get them simply because they have nowhere else to go, which is perfect. So this is going to be where they start their home, and this is going to be where they finish it.
So then that kind of brings up your news. Is again, it's you can look back and it all makes sense. You go, of course, Blockbuster dies. You don't need but at the time, it wasn't an of course. YouTube was like 4 years old. Well, not, that was 2008. YouTube formed in 2004. By then, I was still like, yeah, streaming's not really a thing. And but if you did, kind of look at the writing on the wall, you'd then have to start extrapolating trends. You'd have to go, well, what's the average internet package per year? How much is, megabits up and down? How fast is it enhancing? What about phones? What about connectivity? It doesn't just have to be a computer. Now it's in your pocket. You do have to start making kind of bold moves in that, and most of them don't work. Statistically, most don't work. But with me, like I read a book earlier in the year called Empires of the Sky. And it was about the creation of Zeppelins and then how they were replaced by commercial airlines. Now, yeah, you look back, of course you want to make an airline, but like you got to look back and go like, well, what were they looking at in like the 30s and 40s? It was not a thing to have a pressurized cabin fly across that was space age. But some guys looked at it and went, as this goes on, it will become this thing. And at the time, they sound crazy. If they're like, yeah, in 20 years, every man, woman, and child will be able to fly from New York to London, people are like, you're on crack. But you do kind of have to make those, like right now, I would say is probably Elon Musk's Neuralink. At best, people go, uh, this is just sci-fi. And at worst, they go, yeah, this just kind of seems like Machiavelli wants chips in your brains. But I mean, realistically, look forward. What would it look like in 20? Well, video games are already at almost indistinguishable. 4K, 60 frames a second, real time ray tracing. That's like the norm now. Okay, well, one step above, you can go VR. Okay, but keep pushing that forward. And then what? And then what? And then what? Okay, we can FaceTime right now. And then what? Well, it will probably be some form of merge. And then if you don't see it, go, okay, well, if you don't see it in 20 years, then ask yourself, what does it look like in 100 years? You'd be like, oh, we're probably all, in virtual worlds doing whatever we want. It's like, okay, well, something has to happen in between. What would it look like? It's probably, maybe it's not a chip in your brain. He might look back and go, yeah, you know what? Like airlines, you go, you know what? We thought it was Zeppelins, but it turns out to be planes. But the idea was the same. It's that the average person could afford air travel. You have to look forward and be like, okay, so if we accept that the mainstream news is dying, and we accept that anybody like me, I have no education in journalism, I'm a biology major. I just up and started a show a couple of years ago. Look forward and go, well, then where does it naturally go? And most ideas will statistically be wrong. There was probably like a million ideas for YouTube or something similar. You do have to look forward to go, what will it be? I think that it's pretty obvious. What is Twitter at its core? It's decentralized people with their own phones uploading videos, images, sound, and or text. And that goes upwards. And sure, you have algorithm fuckery and all that. But for the most part, what is the meta theme of it? It's a bunch of nodes on the ground all putting information up, and the most pertinent or appealing, or if it bleeds, it leads, or sexy, rises up. Extrapolate it. What else would it be? Maybe it's not your news. Maybe it's not Twitter. Maybe it's some weird hybrid. but it's probably something along the lines of decentralized moving upwards. That's the general trend. Doesn't always, you know, they look back and they go, yeah, no, no, it turns out it's not Zeppelins. Those are huge and they can explode. But the idea, they weren't wrong. It's going to be travel in the air. They just got the idea. It's not a Zeppelin. It's a tube with wings. You're still kind of there, though. You're pretty much correct.
Sure.
Is it going to be tubes that we look at like old 19th, like in the future, you'll have a tube with mirrors and you can look at your friend a mile away. And it's like, no, now it's FaceTime, but the idea is the same. It's face-to-face communication at a distance. That's kind of where I look at it. And I have no idea what it will be. My podcast probably will be unrecognizable to what it is now. But in the broad strokes, it will be similar. It's I find someone I want to talk to, I upload it, and if it's worthwhile, people will watch it.
Yeah.
So that's my conclusion on it. I don't know.
Well, I don't think you're wrong. I mean, look, the whole key here is you had a monopoly on the media business, with mainstream media for what? How many years? 60 years, 70
I
years?
mean that's video audio. Your
And,
news.
and written is even longer.
I was gonna. Well, I'm reading a book right now, literally this morning, about all the way back to like J.P. Morgan meeting with like William McKinley, and it's like, can you post a Henry Ford was like, I'll get a good article written for you if we do, and that's pre-World War One, so that goes back before that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, 100 years, easy, if not more. So, there's still a demand for news. It's just how people consume it has changed, Tommy. So the business model, like I said, it's been around for 200 years. It works. So what we've done is we're the exact replication of the physical world, how the model gets put together, minus all the print and distribution costs. And we allow the public to interact and share in the narrative, which is what the people want anyway. And the comical part of it all is the mainstream media, even though they know the public wants to participate, will never allow it. It goes against all their ethics. They don't care about what your opinion is. They'll let you know what it is. And so, because of that, people turn away because they want to be able to have a voice. And that's what we allow. So, what I see is, the next mainstream media is going to be a hyper local global media content distribution platform. So it'll be in every zip code in the world, provided you could get in. It'll have a social component where the public can interact and share in the narrative. It'll have a monetization model like YouTube, where journalists can, submit their work, share it on social media, and share in the ad revenue, and a self-service ad platform where businesses can buy an ad and target the ad around the content that's relevant to their product. It's not fantasy. It's done all the time with the tech giants. We're just doing it around news, but the news is hyper local. And it's still, that's why I always say we're the closest model to me is Facebook. This is Facebook meets YouTube, not because we're in the same business as Facebook, because we don't publish their type of content. But if somebody wants to publish their kid's Little League game, that would be sports news for a city. And why shouldn't we publish it? It's news to somebody. So
Yeah.
that's what drives the readership, which then advertisers can select the category they want, and they could drill down right down to one zip code. So if you're a local ice cream parlor and you want to target that kind of content, you would select sports, and your ad would appear around somebody that's reading their kid's Little League game.
And not even
What?
kissing your ass. I'm just thinking that so like from like where I am, I can like I'm on an apartment building up on a hill, and I always see like you can always see all the ambulances and fire trucks and shit, and it's pretty normal. Portland's also not like it's not a real city. It's not certainly not New York. It's not even Boston. I think it's under 100,000 people. It's like not a real city. And so, but every once in a while, and like this is my also just full development into old man of now I like to go out and I'm like, where are all those trucks going? I'm like a nosy old man now. But there have been things where I see like 10, 20 cop cars all going into one spot, and I'll be like 2 in the morning or so, and I'll be like Portland, Maine, and like the last related post is like some local news thing from 6 months ago because it's not a real city. There's not a zillion people. But there have been crazy things like I think a neo-Nazi got shot at a tattoo parlor like 3 miles away back in this summer, but I couldn't find it. I hadn't even thought about this. I probably should have brought this up probably in our last episode about local news, but I couldn't find anything on Twitter until like a week later. Like by accident, finally after going through all like the Portland, Maine like police accounts, I finally found like the after action report where it was like a man was shot there. And then it happened then it happened maybe like a month ago. Someone else, and that's again to show it's not a real city, is that's how infrequently people get shot. But at this point, I had known where to look, like the different emergency services Twitters, but it was still like 3 and 4 days later. There was nothing to where I very easily could have uploaded. I guarantee you the video I had was probably second only to like the body cams on the actual first responders. But that
Mhm.
alone is something where it's like, yeah, no, it's not New York where, every news station in the world is covering every little thing. That alone would have been something where if I had gone to your news or had your news, you go up and get, Portland, Maine, what is it? That would be the number one thing because it's the only thing happening here. But that alone it took like 3 or 4 days to find it because it's just Fox News is not covering a shooting in Portland, Maine. They're just
And
not.
neither is Newsmax
Well,
and,
neither is
and
anyone.
Real America. Nobody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So that I mean
none of
that
them are.
alone is yeah, no, that I hadn't even thought about that, but that alone is like my own experience with it. Like I can't find it. Like Googling and nothing there because it's Portland. It's not a real city.
Well, it is a real city. It's just smaller than Chicago
That's
or
what I mean.
Boston or New York.
That's what I mean when
I know. Yeah, it's and so look, the I'm sure the legacy media, the newspapers there have all but folded. You might have a couple of rags that are owned by national syndications that are just carrying nationally syndicated stuff, I'm guessing. Maybe a couple
yeah.
local stories, but for the most part, it's all but over. So what we're doing is bringing back the local newspaper, but it's digital format, but it's going to be the people who are going to be reporting the news. It's going to be completely decentralized. So just imagine, there's 20,000 cities in the United States. And then if you go to my website, at yournews.com and you look at all the different categories, you got, business, entertainment, politics, sports, you have faith, you have home and garden, food and wine, travel. I'm trying to think of them all because there's so freaking many of them, right? You got, you could have a passion for being a food critic or a theater critic. You could like to write about entertainment news. You could do business. And by the way, I have people that do business news, people that do entertainment news. So it's when you go to work at a newspaper, they will tell you what you're going to write about. Whoever's hiring, if it's a sports magazine and you like to write about fashion, you're screwed. Okay.
Yeah.
So if they say, look, you got to write about this, this guy who just hurt his knee playing soccer, and, I want you to put the story out about it, you don't have a choice. But now with the digital age, you can pick and choose what you want to write about. It's about the stories that matter most to the community and to you, and you can pick your own category. So think of the amount of people that can be doing this, because if you have one person a city, that's 20,000. Well, if you have one person a category, just take times that by 20. Okay. So it's 400,000. I mean, it starts to get massive in scope. I envision millions of content creators, certainly not all monetized, because you're going to have the non-monetized people, which are people that are posting opinions, classifieds. You're going to have PR firms and nonprofits that are submitting their events and stuff like that. But then you're going to have the monetized news reporters that do this for a living and that are running around covering the high school football game, the bank robbery, the car crash, and they're going to be submitting those articles and sharing it out on social media. And those are the ones that are trying to make a living at that. I envision literally millions of content creators. That is what will ultimately replace the legacy media. You're talking about one massive media giant that aggregates everything and brings it under one umbrella and creates one uniform media. It's not that hard of a vision to figure out because, Tommy, number one, I'm already doing it. Number two, you know as well as I do, everybody that has content will give it to you if they know you exist.
Hmm.
Here, take it.
Yeah.
Okay. They're all looking for distribution. It doesn't matter if it's a press release or if it's a show. Everybody wants broader distribution. So, my website is a news content distribution platform that puts the power of the press back in the hands of the people where it belongs. Completely decentralized and democratized news.
And it will though. This is what I always bring up is Like nothing can last. And that's not it's not pessimistic. That's
Sure.
you if in 2004 you might rightly say like, man, YouTube's changing it. You know, you can now upload videos to the internet and then people can see them. Like, we don't need Fox News. And you're like, yeah, in time. And if you said, but YouTube's corrupt at the time, no, it wasn't. It absolutely wasn't. It was sold to Google in 2004. I don't know how much longer it was around before that. But if you had said eventually it will fall, I'd be like, no, it won't. And be like, well, eventually. So it's 2004. I'd be like, okay, give it 20 years. And, in hindsight, we go, yeah, 2004, 2024, whatever. But you have to just remember, like, how far away time seems. So that right now is saying, okay, in the year December 2044, that you just kind of blank out. You go 2040. That's, I don't know. Okay, so it took 20 years. But yeah, now if you looked at YouTube, would anyone with a straight face, it used to just be political things, but now even gamers are like, yeah, no, YouTube censors everything. Okay, so human nature does eventually corrupt it. Of course it will. Why wouldn't it? Of course it's going to. Eventually, it will become corrupt. The bottom up news model, I have no idea how, will eventually become corrupt. How can that be maneuvered around, if at all? Is it even possible, or can you not? Do you have to just wait for the system to rot through, collapse, and then, like a phoenix, the new thing births forward, and then that's how human civilization pushes forward over the millennia?
So, I mean, I think that's a good question. Here's my take on that. I think that, we're a platform, so I fact check nothing. So you could be lying through your teeth, but
Hmm.
nobody knows the local community better than the local people. So the internet is self-policing. And if somebody's putting up stories that are not real, they're fake, eventually nobody will read those people or watch their shows anymore, and they won't make a nickel. Okay. That's how it's going to work. So basically, the public is actually going to decide what type of content they want to read. You will have people that lie, but it won't be many. It will be the few because remember, the only thing a journalist has is their credibility. And the moment you lie to somebody, Tommy, and they find out about it, there's I don't know if you're aware of this, but you're not the only podcaster. There's like millions
Yeah.
of them. Okay. So
Yeah.
people just go, you know what, screw him, I'm going somewhere else. So they watch you because they trust you and they're looking to you to give them the proper information. And the moment somebody actually starts putting out bad info, bye-bye. Then
Yeah.
they don't read your stuff, then your revenue falls. If it's blatant lies, like it's one thing if you're putting your 2 cents into it,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And it's
It,
fine
it,
to go,
it
yeah, I don't like that guy, but whatever.
yeah, it's another thing if you're actually lying. And so with us, if we find out somebody's lying, we just 86 them off the platform. So we just get rid of them. But the content creators are going to have to figure out how to write stories so that it doesn't aggravate the audience that's out there consuming this information, but instead makes them want more, and that's going to be an art. And there's always people that do better than other people, no matter what it is. There's always the Wayne Gretzky's of the world and the Michael Jordans of the world, right? The superstars. You have the people that are down here, and then you have people like Joe Rogan, right? That just excel to the top. And by the way, if it was 25 years ago, Joe Rogan wouldn't be doing a podcast simply because the technology didn't exist. Today, the guy's bigger than Fox, CNN, ABC, NBC, and MSNBC combined. Give me a break. I mean, one guy is bigger than all the mainstream media networks. What does that tell you?
Well, it also tells you that you have to look more at possibility versus feasibility. And it's what is possible. It's I saw a great tweet the other day that actually kind of made me stop and think. Like J.R.R. Tolkien, right? He wrote Lord of the Rings.
Mhm.
He was a soldier in World War One. And I had somebody just it's a simple tweet and said, "How many Tolkiens didn't make it out of the trenches? How many Lord of the Rings stories? It's something that's so ubiquitous in our society. Frodo and Gandalf. Like, how many of those things just got snuffed out? Now that's different. That's a war and that's self-inflicted. But at the same time, it's like, well, really, what it meant was, what was possible, what was the feasibility, and it's, well, that they just put pen to paper. Now, it wasn't possible because they're killed in a trench. In the same way, it's like, well, 25 years ago, Rogan wouldn't have existed. Okay. Well, now what is possible? It's like, how many Rogans throughout history have died? They're just dudes who could talk your ear off at the bar or the factory, but it was 1850, right?
Hmm.
So you then have to go forward and go, well, what, in 25 years and in 2049, Bob, whoever, they're like, yeah, he is the best virtual reality talk show slash musical. Be like, what? And be like, yeah, no, 25 years ago you couldn't do it, but now we have, XYZ, and there will be social or the equivalent of social media companies that you've VR companies that don't even exist yet. They'll have weird names. Like, yeah, this, without the invention of, I don't know, of Woggle, he couldn't do it. But now with, because Woggle is ubiquitous, he's got 8 billion monthly users. He's 100 times larger than Rogan. That's what you have to look for. How many Tolkiens didn't make it out of the church? So what doesn't exist? I don't know. Is it plugging your brain into the internet? Is it VR? Is it I have no fucking idea. Or maybe it'll be like a reversion to old shit. Maybe when we start settling on new planets, I don't know, the speed of light will be a hindrance. So it'll be back to local centralized news. I have no idea. But like you said, 25 years ago, Rogan wouldn't because not because he didn't exist or his opinions didn't exist or what. And sure, crazy stuff has happened since then, but there's still plenty of scandals. I mean, 25 years ago, 99, we just did Desert Storm. We're still like
Tech
bombing
bubble,
Kosovo, tech
tech
bubble,
bubble.
Clinton, the Cold War just ended. It's, 15 years prior or 20 years prior, Vietnam ended. It's still crazy. So then why didn't he exist? Well, there's no internet and he couldn't. So in that same sense, you have to ask yourself, like, what is going to exist 25 years? There will still be crazy events. There's going to be another whatever 9/11. There's going to be another Trump. There's going to be another scandal. There's going to be another invasion. It's never going to end. What exists in 2049 that doesn't exist now? I have no idea. It's probably a technological component. I have no idea. But it's not that the person doesn't exist. It is 1999 right now, and there is a Joe Rogan. Just give it time. So
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Well, yeah, no, look, I mean, the internet is what's going to transform all these different business models. It's not just the media industry that was affected. I mean, it was pretty much everything that's been affected. So, you know, that is going to be the next wave of how information is delivered until somebody creates something that replaces the internet. And
Hmm.
I have no idea what that's going to
But sure,
be. I'm
it is
sure it will.
it's coming. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
exactly. It's so beyond anything we can imagine. But the general idea, the general theme of information decentralization, that's been the trend for 10,000 years. Then start with the okay. Before TV, it's like, well, they had the newspaper. Before that, it's like, I don't know, maybe the printing press. And it's like, before that, they stopped saying the Catholic Mass in Latin. So then the average guy could be like, what did John the Baptist say? And then before that, it was like, you're not even allowed to pray to God. You got to come to the priest first. And on and on and on. Back to like, yeah, well, this is our walled garden. You can't come in here. You got to go be a hunter gatherer. And it's, I have a club or a wheel or I built a fire. It's like history has been nothing but a series of gatekeepers, concentric circles of gatekeepers, and one by one they're just dissolving more and more. And the old, it's like, you don't even know how to read or write, and then it's like, okay, and then the printing press, and then like another like outer city wall falls, and then it's like, all right, the newspaper, and then it's like TV, and then radio, and then internet, and then cell phones, and then social media, and then making your own podcast. It's the circle is falling and falling and falling. And like every circle, they're going to put up a hell of a fight because privacy is power, consolidation is power. But history has been nothing but a series of gatekeepers just losing power. Sometimes it takes 1,000 years between. Sometimes it takes, you know, 5 years. I don't know. But it's so what's after the internet? I have no idea. I would imagine it's going to be something with direct interface, BCI, brain computer interface. But I don't know what it will be. You don't know what it will be.
I
But
won't be here. I
yeah,
don't care. It
yeah,
doesn't matter.
I might be here. I know, I know sure as hell though that the 10,000 year trend is not just coming to an end in 2024. All right, Twitter's free. The end. That's not the end stage of humanity.
Not the end stage, but I think there's going to be a lot of big stuff happening when it comes to Trump gets in, when it comes to the censorship with the tech giants, and if he can open them up to where there's liability, class action lawsuits are going to happen, and it may take 10 to 15 years, but I think he's going to bankrupt them all.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
there's going to because the damages are so massive. I mean, we're talking about you, Tommy. You were on YouTube. I don't know what your audience was, but let's just say that it was 20, 30, 50,000 people a show. Okay, 4 years later, you could be, right now at 1 million people, and the income could be there's a story that could be sold to a jury, is what I'm trying to
No,
tell
no,
you.
no. They're 1,000%. I got up to I think 5 or 6,000 in 1 year with throttling. It took,
Mhm.
and then I had to start over at zero on Rumble. Now it's up to 46 or 47,000, making, I don't know, 3, 4 grand a month. And that was after getting knifed halfway through. And not only that, it's not that I was kicked off YouTube and then restarted on YouTube. I was kicked off and then started on a platform about 1/1000th the size. So if I didn't lose half of the life of the podcast of exponential growth to being removed, and then even then, I'm doing this on a tiny platform. If I
It
could,
was a billionth the size.
yeah, it
Okay,
is. So no, my point. I have to think about that. I'm like, I really do hope one day they find some, violation of the First Amendment through backdoor government favors, because I will be,
it's
I will get paid, legitimately. I will get paid if there's a class
Yeah,
action lawsuit. I'm
but
going to war.
you're going to be part of about 37 million people
Yeah.
that are suing them. That's the
Yeah.
point. And one big man, it'll be so crazy. It'll take 20 years to do this. It'll
Uh-huh.
bankrupt them.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, and if that ever comes to fruition, which I would not be shocked. Let's put it this way: I'd be shocked if it didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a thing called the First Amendment, freedom of speech. These platforms were designed to give everybody the ability to have free speech. And all of a sudden, through government control, they did not. So we already know that the government was the ones that was telling them to censor to the point where they put FBI agents in. I mean,
Oh
you're
yeah, no.
screwed no matter how you go. There's
Yeah.
no way around it. The facts are the facts. You can't skew them. You can't say, well, here's what you could say. This is no different than Hitler telling the soldiers to gas the Jews. Well, I was told to do it. Oh, so that makes you not culpable? You're going to prison.
Yeah.
Okay. It's called the crime. In this case, nobody's going to prison. It's punitive damages. And what are the damages? So Tommy Carrigan says that he's owed $10 million. Okay, because of the mental damages he's faced, plus all the income he could have made. But you're going to be one of God knows how many people.
Yeah. No, and again, they are a private business. You could absolutely kick whoever. First of all, but you have Section 230, but then you also have you are no longer a private business once you start taking direct lines of communication and orders from the government, and then more damning when you get favors in turn of we won't break you up. You're not a monopoly if you just let us say this, that, and the other thing. That is so. You mean you danced with the devil? You took a gamble. Now sometimes it works, like military industrial complex. They're not getting a slap on the wrist anytime soon. But man, if you have, I mean, not only did they hire FBI agents, they had backdoor portals. You could maybe, if I'm a lawyer, you could maybe argue, like, yeah, well, he left the FBI and then he went and got a job in the private bit. No, but I could see where a good lawyer could do that. They had portals. They they hired someone to code and create, no different than a YouTube page. It doesn't just show up. Somebody designs it. Somebody paves these roads didn't just grow like trees. Somebody paved them.
Yeah,
They had portals for DHS and FBI, CDC, FDA, and HHS backdoor to work through these. There is no more clear of a violation. I
Tommy.
hope they get gutted, and I hope I get paid.
Well, you also had Zuckerberg admit. that
Well,
they
that's the other
reported to.
thing. This is not even
I
speculation.
think
It's
you just
like,
play the tape to the jury.
no,
Yeah,
exactly.
we
It's
did it because they told us to.
yeah. No,
So
yeah. It's
yeah, they're dead in the water.
yeah. I just hope I get paid. I just want to get paid. I don't even want more than I'm owed. I don't know. It's not some like, hey, McDonald's burned me with their coffee. I literally just give me like the paycheck I think I was wronged out of. Yeah, I'd like $1 zillion. If they gave me 60 grand for 3 years, I would take it. I'm not.
Tommy, there's millions of you. That's the point.
Yeah, I know.
This
It's
is so massive that they don't have enough money to cover all the losses.
other than selling the company itself, dissolving it,
Well, what'll
and
happen
stuff.
is there's going to be deals that will be cut. Now, this will take 20 years and,
Yeah.
$20 billion, $30 billion of legal to go through to get to the point where they go uncle.
Hmm.
And now they're going to say we don't have the money because we gave it all to the lawyers. And, now let's cut a deal. And that deal is going to be that all management goes, that it gets controlled by other entities. My guess would be Elon Musk will probably buy him all.
Yeah. I think yeah.
I mean, he's the only one that can afford it, right? I mean, this guy's bigger than most countries.
Yeah.
So, how it works out, I don't know. I'm just saying there's a high probability that's coming.
Yeah.
So, Trump being in office is really going to restore things the way they should be. Because I did listen to Joe Rogan where he had Andreessen on. What's his name? Mark
Yeah.
Andreessen.
Yeah, I listened to that too, yeah.
Okay, so it was a little disturbing what he was saying. He went into a meeting. I think it was a government meeting where they said don't fund anything else
Don't
because
fund AI.
basically
We're doing it. Don't worry about it. It's over.
we control just a handful of companies that already exist. That's the end of it. There's no more opportunity. You're done.
Yeah, yeah. The barrier to entry will be so high, but you won't have to do it because we're going to give you government Yeah, it is. And to me, and that might be beyond the scope of this episode, but to go on that line, because I actually did listen to that episode on the way back from Thanksgiving break, was actually you and I had talked that day. I'd gone back to listening to that show. Was this is the jumping from the six major news corps in like the early to late 2000s to social media in terms of like government control, CIA, NSA, getting in there because they're smart enough to go, they realize it's circling. Now we got to get to the new thing. To me, this is the next jump. They're now looking at they're now looking at social media giants today in 2024 as we in 2024 are looking at news from 10 years ago. We're going, this thing's done. It's cooked. It's going to take a little time, but it's dead. They're looking at it and they're going, this is dead. There's got everything you just said. There's going to be, what do we do next? And they're like, well, you and I are going, we don't know what's going to create or surpass the internet, replace the internet, but something will. Well, I would imagine at DARPA and the CIA and the NSA, because the ones that literally fucking created the internet in the 60s, 50s, they know that something's coming that's going to get rid of the or supplant the internet. And like these, they're trying to embed themselves now. So we're seeing now that meeting that he talked about that will be cited in like 25 years when people
Sure.
go AI is dead. There's going to be class action lawsuits, but as I said earlier, it's just the decades and centuries of the concentric circles of gatekeepers getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and it's the right tactical move. Now they're demons from hell, but it's the right tactical move. They're going to the next jump. They're like, fuck the internet. This thing's old news. In 20 years, it's all going to be AI and brain computer interfaces. And they're trying, and that's probably why they hate Elon is because he's looking ahead too. And what is he doing? Neuralink. He's not betting the future on Twitter. He's going, there's another thing after this. There's an iPhone 18, an iPhone 19.
He
That's
just bought that to level the playing field. That's
oh
what he
yeah, no,
did.
no, no. He yeah, no, that's not the thing. The thing is absolutely Neuralink. I mean, he has XAI, which is his AI company that's I think less than 2 years old and already has a higher market cap than OpenAI. He now has I mean, declassified, the strongest supercomputer in the world, Colossus AI in Austin. It runs off of I think it was 100,000 GPUs and then 200,000. Then he just said next year they're moving it to 1 million. He's using Colossus AI or Colossus, which is the computer for XAI, which runs Grok, the AI for Twitter, coupled with AI from all the Tesla cars, that network, to develop whatever I would imagine he's probably got something off the books, but it's AGI, artificial general intelligence, because the only way to not, succumb to a Terminator like situation is to merge with it. You have to. You can't fight the internet by going, we're going to have better news. You have to get online. It's just what it is. So there's probably some high level battle, almost race between the covert entrenched power structure, the deep state, New World Order, Illuminati, whatever you want, the cabal. And it seems to be Elon, I don't know, Trump et al. Are also looking at this. The reason why they're worth hundreds of billions is they don't look in the past, they're looking to the future. And I'm glad you brought that up. I hadn't even thought about that, what you said about Mark Andreessen and the AI companies. That's absolutely, it's 2004. And they're going, the Mockingbird, and you have some old CIA guys going, yeah, I did that 50 years ago. We're looking at something new. It's called Facebook. It's called YouTube. It's called, don't forget, DARPA had a program, the same agency that created the internet. They had a program called LifeLog, which was an operation to see what would it be like if you handed civilians their own, we'll call it social media website. Would they surveil themselves? Would they give you updates? Would they upload pictures? LifeLog ended. It was a several year long program. The next day, the next day, 24 hours later, Facebook went live.
There you go.
That's why they rule the world. They're demons from hell, but you got to give credit where credit's due. They looked at the next thing. So you have to imagine if 2004 they were looking ahead to control of Twitter, they probably didn't know what they would be, but they knew that they would be. Right now, they're looking at whatever is coming next. And it's whatever replaces the internet. It's probably some brain interface VR type thing.
Too weird for me.
It's way too weird, but it's coming. You're gonna, as most guests on my show say, how old are you? What, 50,
60.
60? Most guests on my show go, well, that's way after my time. And I always have to politely interject, well, I'm 34. So unfortunately, I'm still gonna fucking be here. So I have to think about this stuff. Sorry, I didn't mean to just go on that tangent, but yeah,
No,
no,
don't worry
that's
about
exactly what it is. No,
it. I mean, look, there's always something that replaces something else. So, the
forever. It'll go
question is,
forever. Yeah.
yeah, the question is, in my industry, in the news business, you still need ground troops reporting the news. It's never going to go away
Yeah.
unless you're using, artificial intelligence that could show up at the high school football game. Then
No,
that
you
becomes different.
still you still need people. The one of the guys I have on the show often, Dale, still he was in Delta Force, which is the apex of Special Forces unit. He says no matter what technology you have, every war from now until the end of time will always be fought by a man in the field with a gun. And that's
Yeah,
like, and that's he is the authority on it. No, I think you're right. It will always be someone.
yeah, you're going to have people, and so, people want information, whether it's local or national, there's still demand, right? It's just consumption has changed on how they consume it. So they'll just be right now, the internet is the paper boy and the printing press, but it could be a different form of way to distribute that information, but it still has to come to some kind of device. I don't know how it's going to go right to your freaking head. I mean, that just seems a little crazy.
Neuralink.
I and then how many people are going to sign up to, yeah, put that chip in my head? I mean, and
You don't
then
need
what?
everyone. You need a couple people, and then other people would say you cannot. They'll realize you cannot compete. It'd be like if sports legalized steroids. Maybe not in high school, maybe not in college. You get to the NFL, you're gonna go. You cannot compete. There's only so many hours in the day. You got to put the needle in your ass. And some people will go, I don't fucking want any part of this. Other people will go, I'm gonna win at all costs. So you don't need everyone. You need a couple people to go. I'll use it, and then you have to use it. I won't. Fuck that.
I got to be honest
Absolutely,
with you, because
absolutely not, man.
they're going to be able to control you.
Precise. Well, that's the end of free will. It's
Yeah,
almost biblical at a certain
and
point.
so
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
out
yeah.
on that
No,
deal.
no, now I'm with you. No. I'll be a Luddite. I think we'll see. And again, I know this is going to be on the scope of this, but I think we're going to see speciation, which is when a new species forms. I really do. And for a long time, it's been theorized that there would be a new species, Homo galaxis, and that's as we explore the stars. But I don't think that really jives because they're not fundamentally different. It's just you and I in a spaceship. You're not really changing. I think that we are going to see a legitimate break in species, something we probably haven't seen for 500,000 to a million years. Neanderthals or Cro-Magnons standing up straight, opposable thumbs, the agricultural revolution, which leads to
But
societies.
haven't we already seen that?
I think the real jump will come from merging with machines, not no,
I,
not in a prosthetic limb. I think we're going to see people merging with machines, and they're not going to go from IQ 120 to 130. They're going to go up to like IQ 4,000. I think they're going to become a different species. I really do. They're not going to need arms or legs. They're not going to eat. They're going to be plugged into the internet. They're going to run off nuclear power. They're going to be decentralized. They're going to have a million hands. I don't want any part of it.
I just figured they were liberals. Those were the species that broke off.
Dun-dun. Yeah, no, it's gonna be something. It's gonna be merging with, and I don't want any part of that, man. I don't.
No, not at all.
No,
Not at all.
I'll go
Remember, they could turn your chip off. Years ago,
precisely.
there was a movie, I don't remember what it was called, but I was young then, so you're probably talking like, 40, 50 years ago, and you weren't allowed to live past 34 or 35 years old. So you were coming to the end of your life
Yeah,
because the population, so they had some chip in there that would ultimately just kill you off, or it was I don't remember the whole movie. I just know I remember watching it, like, so somebody escaped and they got out, and I think they got the chip out of their head or something. So, or maybe they killed them when they were in there. I don't know, but lifespans had to become less because you had too big of a population.
yeah. I think best case scenario for everyone that doesn't merge will probably become like a protected species. It'll be like a UNESCO world site, or they'll be like a zoo. And it'll be like we have our own little, I don't know, they'll give us a state the size of, they'll put us in Montana and fence it off. And we'll be allowed to play human. We'll build businesses and get married and have sports teams and shit. But everyone will know it's not like the real thing. I think we'll be like a zoo of sorts. And I'm all right with that. I'm not plugging in. Not to
Well,
leave that bad taste in anyone's mouth. Your news is not about merging with machines and becoming techno gods. That's not what I think your news is. Um, but we're coming. Or actually, we've gone past an hour. I mean, obviously, it's yournews.com. If you go to the bottom, you scroll to the bottom, it says become a citizen journalist. Since we first chatted, I've been uploading every podcast there. The link to it's in all the descriptions. But how do people, for the good people that want to get involved, how do people get involved? Where can they find it? How can they find it?
so we're for people that are interested in being a journalist. Okay, we have a citizen journalist program, and the way that works is they could go to yournews.com, scroll down to the bottom of the page, click on become a citizen journalist, and fill out the application. Once approved, they'll get email notification with instructions on how to start submitting articles, and you could become the next media person in your market, covering all the stories that really matter in the community. If you want to support local journalism, the way our model works is a news reporter will write a story. It could be the high school football game. We publish that content to the subject and geography it's relevant to. So in that case, it would be the sports section for the market. It could be Portland, Maine. And then that person shares that on the social media pages to their followers. Their followers can come click on the link to consume their content, and we sell the ads and they share in the ad revenue. So I think it'll be up very soon. We're offering special packages where people can target right down to one zip code, and you could buy the spot for a nominal fee. And we could do national ads, we could do state ads, we could do county or market ads, we could do zip code and ads, and it's cost effective. The third thing is, and this is probably the most important one, Tommy, is we're doing, first of all, all tech giants were funded by Silicon Valley. Not one of them wasn't. And there's a reason. If you want to scale a business quick, it's going to take the proper capital in order to do it. So Silicon Valley goes out to the institutional players, to the BlackRocks, to the Vanguards, to the high net worth individuals, which represent probably less than 1% of the population. And that's why, Tommy, nobody ever called you to buy eBay stock or Amazon or Facebook or Netflix, simply because you aren't in the good old boys club, right? And anybody listening, for the most part, wasn't either. We decided to do something different. rather than go to institutional players. And there's a lot of them that are not big. I mean, some of these institutional players could be private equity firms that have 3 to 5 million in a private equity fund, and they have specific parameters that they look for, but they have to spend the money. I personally have a couple friends that own a one owns a $300 million hedge fund, the other one is a $100 million private equity fund. They're I know these guys. I play golf with them. Okay. So they're all interested. I decided not to go that route because the reason we're in the mess we're in today is because six companies own the legacy media. And everybody knows BlackRock and Vanguard own everything. And that's why, if you were to ever look up, what percentage of Public Square does Vanguard own? It's 38%. Public Square is, the Michael Seifert thing, which is, I mean, and it's not their fault. They did it via SPAC. The brokerage firm raised the money in the SPAC, and it's all institutional money. There was no little guys that came into it. So we decided to do something a little harder, way better. I always say if we're a news organization that's by the people, for the people, it would be really dumb if I said, "Oh yeah, BlackRock owns us." Okay,
For
so
the people, by the people, trademark by
yes,
BlackRock.
by BlackRock. So we decided that the public should actually own our product. So we're selling direct to the public. The cool part about equity crowd funds is you don't have to be an accredited investor. You could spend $200 and everywhere in between, and then we could market it. So what we do ultimately will replace the legacy media. And like I said, while they're laying off people, I'm bringing them on. And so we've got now in the last 4 months, I think well, a little more, last 8 months, I've picked up 400 news people. I'm going to pick up, I told you, there's 170,000 on LinkedIn. If you go to LinkedIn Navigator, type in student journalist, the number is exactly 170. So my focus now is going to them because here's what we're going to do. And you're going to love this, Tommy. You know how James O'Keefe is training people to become,
Hmm.
investigative journalists, and go undercover? We're doing the same thing with the students. So once the students sign up, we bring on a bunch of them. The next step is we're going to have journalists on Zoom calls. So we have an email database. I could send an email to the content creators and say, tomorrow at 7 p.m., we're having so and so on. Here's what this discussion is going to be about to try and teach you how to become a better journalist, be better monetized, make more money. So that's the focus. And the reason for that is I think that when you bring on the younger generation, they could be molded. When you bring in the people that have already been corrupted, they're done.
Yeah, yeah,
So
you're bringing in the same, the old, yeah,
yeah, so we're able to, and it has nothing to do with politics. It has everything to do with trying to make sure that these people are putting out the information that's, not going to be damaging or is not going to upset the public, right?
yeah.
If you're a journalist and you're writing about the college football game and you put your 2 cents in and you say, I think Notre Dame's going to beat so and so, nobody cares. The moment you do put in your 2 cents in politics, everybody gets pissed off. So, you
Yeah.
know what? Who, what, when, where, why? Put the story out, let the public decide, stay out of the political side of it. You can have your own opinion, just keep it to yourself.
Hmm.
And that's going to be the training that we put these people through. So I think for people that are coming out of school, this is going to be the most exciting time because they're going to be our go-to people to find out what's happening in the community. I mean, they're going to replace everybody, and I'll make sure that happens.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so we have an equity crowd fund. You could go to yournews.com, scroll down to the bottom of the page. Next to become a citizen journalist is, I think, invest, where you could read more about what we're doing. And if you like it, you can spend as little as $200 and everywhere in between.
Hell yeah, dude.
Tommy will probably have the link in the description as well.
Yeah, yep, I do.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much for your time. That was
Oh,
awesome.
thanks for having me, Tommy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, all right. Give me 1 second. Let me